Okay, and what does the study show about them?
It shows that people who consume a lot of these foods have higher risks of developing more than 30 different conditions. This is based on a big analysis where researchers pooled data from dozens of studies that included millions of people. The study's senior author, Wolfgang Marx of Deakin University in Australia, told me one of the things that stood out was...
All right, today we're going to get right into it. I'm going to talk about the food. I'm going to give you guys an article that NPR just dropped, and it says that from anxiety to cancer, the evidence against ultra-processed food piles up. Now, in case you didn't know, there's a lot of stuff in America that is in our food that they will not allow in any other countries, right? You guys go look this stuff up. We're supposed to be the smartest, bestest, most advanced, biggest, strongest, bestest country, and we are allowing things into our food system that is creating cancers and anxieties for you. They know it, now they're admitting it, and I just want to help bring this awareness to you guys so you guys can try to slowly, get the chemicals that you're addicted to out of your life, and then you can live the best life because you're more aware, you have more energy, you're not sick as much, and all that stuff comes with eating good, clean food. Okay, so we're going to get right into this article right here. I just couldn't believe that NPR actually put it out. It was on March 18th, 2024. Ultra-processed foods contain substances you won't find in your own kitchen, like high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavors, color enhancers, anti-caking agents, and emulsifiers. All things we've been warning about for years that they have always said, don't worry about it. Now they're coming out with it. And I'm going to give you guys a reason in a minute here why I think they're coming out with this information now. And I'm also going to give you guys some examples of some foods and what to look for by the end of this video, so don't go anywhere. It's going to be quick though. At a time when Americans consume more than half of their daily calories from ultra-processed foods, there's an increasing evidence that eating too many of these foods can make us sick. A study published in the Britain Medical Journal finds people who consume high amounts of these foods have an increased risk of anxiety, depression, obesity, metabolic syndrome, certain cancers, including colorectal cancer, and premature death. Do I need to read those again so you can take this seriously? A study found that people who eat a lot of processed foods, which is probably a large portion of y'all, because you buy from the store, have increased risk of anxiety, depression, metabolic syndrome, obesity, certain cancers, including colorectal cancer and premature death. Now, if you guys actually did some homework and rewound the clock some, you would look at the history of the health of America, and then you would almost see a direct correlation where they almost match up from when they started heavy processing the foods to all the sicknesses. So you can rewind the clock and start looking at autisms and sicknesses into the food supply system and add in this stuff, and you know what I'm talking about. I got to keep that on the down low so I don't get canceled on social media, but you know what I'm talking about. That causes a lot of health problems in kids. This data came from more than 9 million people who participated in dozens of studies, which researchers analyzed as part of the umbrella review. Taking the body of literature as a whole, there was a consistent evidence that regularly eating higher compared to lower amounts of ultra-processed foods was linked to these adverse health outcomes, says the study's author, Melissa Lane, of the University of Australia. So I want you guys to understand this. They know this. I've been telling you guys they know this. The FDA and the USDA, the ones going after the Amish farmer, Amos Miller. If you guys listen to why they went after Amos Miller, they talked about that the FDA and the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, they only have authority if the food has been adulterated, right? If the food has been adulterated.
We'll find out.
Is it possible for the state to pursue action in criminal court, or is this the only avenue they have to try to shut Amos down?
Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture has never pursued this path, ever. Historically, the path the legislature set out was you basically give somebody a ticket. It's called a summary offense. And then they escalate to a second summary offense. And if you keep committing offenses, then maybe it escalates to a misdemeanor some years. But all the court cases have consistently said you cannot prohibit someone from making food unless it is adulterated, unless it is dangerous to people, unless it is deceptive. They didn't. To date, the state had every opportunity, more than 2 months, really 20 years of spying on Amos Miller, to put on evidence what was the worst evidence they had about Amos? And they had almost nothing. I mean, literally. I mean, they said there was E. coli. Their own test said there was no E. coli in any of Amos Miller's products.
He doesn't put anything in his food, and they're trying to shut him down. Here are all these chemicals in your food, and they don't even care. I want you to understand, please, that you're being gaslighted daily. Like, look up the word gaslight and try to understand what's happening, okay? Because that's what's going on, all right? Now, yesterday when I was out at breakfast, because, you know, we're on the road, we're traveling. One of the reasons why we got an RV is so we can bring our own food with us. We don't have to be, you know, beholden to the stores. A lot of our food, we grow 90% of our own food, and we bring it with us as we're traveling. That's why we got the RV. And I went out to breakfast the other day, and I had a pancake and some eggs. Actually, I had a waffle. And I asked about the syrup, you know, can I get some syrup? And I know I'm eating out, so I know I'm going to take it on the chin with some syrup, okay, some high fructose corn syrup. And I was just going to use just a little bit, because so she brought over to me the syrup here. It says breakfast syrup, right? And so the first thing I do is I go to the ingredients. Ingredients: corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, water, salt, natural and artificial flavors, and caramel color, right? And that's from Schmucker's, trusted brand. Don't buy anything from Schmucker's. Listen to me. I says, man, there's not even, I asked her, I said, where does syrup come from? And the waitress lady, she was kind of cool. She says, well, it comes from maple trees. And I said, there ain't a tree on this ingredient list. And she says, that's why it's called breakfast syrup. Do you see the games they play with you out there? That when she said that and I looked at it, I was like, wow, the games they play with you out there, so you voluntarily kill yourself, is amazing to me. Breakfast syrup. So it's not really called syrup, and that's their out. Now this is maple syrup, 100%. We did get this at you know, it's great value stuff. You can get them at some of your stores, but it is just maple syrup. There's one ingredient, maple syrup. Okay, just like your jams, right? Here's strawberry jams. Okay, Smucker's strawberry jams. Strawberries, number one ingredient. And if you didn't know, the ingredients listed on your ingredients is in the order of the you know, materials put in. Okay, so the first ones are going to be the most, and as you get down to the bottom one, those are the least ingredients. So the first ingredients are the most ingredients, and then it goes down to the less ingredients. So strawberries, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, fruit pectin, citric acid. Now, why would I need all that stuff in there when strawberries are naturally sweet? Right off the line. And I'm just trying to show you guys, like, what they're doing to the food system, right? And a lot of you guys probably put half and half in your coffees in the morning. This stuff is so bad for you. It's not even dairy, right? Half and half. The pasteurized milk that you drink is just dead water that's colored white. Okay, there's no enzymes for your stomach. It doesn't make you healthy. It actually probably is making you sick. In my experience, it caused me to have psoriasis on my elbows. It caused me to have a lot of mucus buildup. Once I kicked out store dairy from my diet, my whole body changed. Those are just my own testimonies that I could share with you guys. But what I want to do here is just bring awareness to you guys. They're coming out now and telling you guys that you're going to get anxiety, cancer, and everything from ultra-processed foods. All the while, they're allowing the ultra-processed foods to be front and center in every single thing that you eat. As I mentioned before, many countries ban these processed foods. You can't get them in other countries. So let that sink in. If we're supposed to be America, the best country, and you know, everyone's supposed to have our best interest at heart, why wouldn't the federal government, the USDA and the FDA, start cracking down on chemicals that are causing you to go to big pharma, making you take the pills, making your quality of life really super low because you're all medicated and sickly? Why wouldn't they change that? I'm asking for a friend. All right, so leave my next two videos, make sure you're subscribed. They're going to be very intense. I'm going to really walk you guys through some stuff. One of them is going to be heavy duty conspiracy theory stuff that really makes a lot of sense. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel. They are unsubscribing people to our channel pretty regularly. Hold on a second. On your way out, you guys can listen to this.
A study points to the potential.
And you guys have a nice day, all right? Make sure you share the video with your friends.
Foods. It links those foods to an increased risk of diseases and health conditions. More than half the calories Americans consume each day come from those foods, which are often high in salt and sugar and fat, and some other stuff, as we're going to hear from NPR's
Sugar and
Allison
fat. Don't
Aubrey.
believe
Allison,
that.
good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
What kind of food are we talking about?
Everything they've told us.
Well, yeah,
is wrong.
stuff you buy in the grocery store, things that have extra ingredients you wouldn't find in your own kitchen, things like hydrolyzed protein, additives such as artificial colors, flavor enhancers, emulsifiers, anti-caking agents, and thickeners. So these are highly refined foods. Think breads, fast food, sugary drinks, cereals,
Everything
cookies, and
you
other
eat.
packaged snacks.
Okay, and what does the study show about them?
It shows that people who consume a lot of these foods have higher risks of developing more than 30 different conditions. This is based on a big analysis where researchers pooled data from dozens of studies that included millions of people. The study's senior author, Wolfgang Marx of Deakin University in Australia, told me one of the things that stood out was with mood and mental health disorders.
Where we see a
You can't make this
30%
stuff up.
reduced risk of depressive symptoms with a healthy diet, like a Mediterranean-style diet. We're seeing a roughly 20 to 30% increased risk for diets that are high in these ultra-processed foods.
They also found strong evidence linking high intake of these foods to metabolic conditions, including diabetes, obesity, and an increased risk of several different types of cancer.
What explains those risks?
There are a lot of different potential explanations. The simplest one is that some of the most common ultra-processed foods, these are really ubiquitous in our food supply, I just mentioned, like fast food, sugary drinks, snacks. They tend to be high in salt, sugar, saturated fat. I spoke to Dr. Jeffrey Meyerhart. He's an oncologist at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, which is a sponsor of NPR. He treats colorectal cancer, which is on the rise.
One mechanism of how ultra-processed food can be associated with colorectal cancer is, again, through leading to increasing weight, increasing risk of diabetes, and other metabolic syndrome factors closely tied to colorectal cancer.
And given that multiple studies show high consumption of ultra-processed food is linked to increased risk of colorectal cancer, this is concerning.
Well, given that, is there any way to persuade people to cut back?
A panel of advisors is currently evaluating all of the latest diet and nutrition studies as part of a process to update the dietary guidelines. That's one place where recommendations could be made, maybe next year.
Guidelines.
On the regulatory side, the Food and Drug Administration is moving ahead on front of package labeling that will flag foods that contain high amounts of sodium, sugar, saturated fat. I spoke to the FDA's Jim Jones about that. He's Deputy Commissioner on Human Foods.
By focusing on sodium, saturated fat, added sugars, we will also likely make progress on reducing consumption of ultra-processed food because there is a high correlation between those three ingredients in ultra-processed food.
He says there's still more research needed to better understand, Steve, the kind of mechanisms by which ultra-processed foods could be harming us.
Okay, for some reason I'm no longer hungry. Allison, thanks.
That we're not even talking about the dyes in the food too. Okay, y'all do your homework, share the video, and we'll see you guys on the next one.